Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a monumental shift in modern business history. We're talking about the complete ground-up transformation of India's digital landscape. It's this massive phenomenon commonly known as the Jio effect. Over the next few minutes, we are going to roll up our sleeves and look at the hard data, the brilliant corporate strategies, and the unseen consequences of what actually happens when a single company completely rewrites the rules of an entire industry. Think about it for a second. How exactly does one single corporate entity manage to take a massive, highly fragmented, billion-person telecommunications market and just flip it completely upside down? Well, I'll tell you right now, it wasn't just luck. It was a highly calculated, heavily funded, and fiercely executed disruption. We are going to unpack exactly how Reliance Jio pulled this off and what it really means for both consumers and the competitors who got caught in the crossfire. Okay, so here's our playbook for today. First, the telecom status quo. Second, the Jio disruption playbook. Third, the casualties of war. Fourth, a tight new oligopoly. And lastly, the cost of cheap data. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the telecom status quo, the market before 2016. Back in March 2015, the Indian telecom market was incredibly fragmented. It was really crowded, with 12 active operators fighting for space. But fast forward to 2022, and that number plummeted to just 5. But honestly, the real shocker here is the data consumption. Before Jio entered the chat, your average user was scraping by on a mere 91.5 megabytes a month. Think about that. Post-Jio, that number absolutely exploded to 15.8 gigabytes. It was literally an overnight shift from a low data past to a highly digital present. It's like going from a dripping faucet to a fire hose. And the absolute catalyst for this digital explosion? The price. The cost per gigabyte plummeted from around 200 rupees all the way down to a jaw-dropping 10.4 rupees. This wasn't just a discount. This dramatic shift totally shattered the existing pricing model. It basically made digital access a reality for hundreds of millions of people who, frankly, were just priced out of the internet before this. Moving right along to Section 2, the Jio Disruption Playbook, redefining the rules of telecom. So how did they do it? Jio used a few really clever core tactics to completely bypass legacy infrastructure. First up, a freemium launch. They offered free services for up to a year just to capture massive, unheard-of volume. Second, they built a VoLTE-only network. By running voice calls entirely over an internet connection, they totally skipped the outdated 2G and 3G networks to keep their costs super low. Third, they built this bundled app ecosystem full of free entertainment just to keep users locked into their world. And finally, they introduced the 1,500 rupee JioPhone, which brought 4G right into rural India, bridged the digital divide, and onboarded literally millions of brand new internet users. It was a masterclass in market capture. But every disruption has a dark side. Section 3, the casualties of war, the fallout for competitors. Telecom demands massive, relentless investment. Let's look at the famous family settlement where Anil Ambani took over Reliance Communications, or Arcom, back in 2005. While Arcom was struggling with failed infrastructure deals, Anil's brother, Mukesh Ambani, swooped into the space with Jio in 2016. The financial pressure of trying to compete with literally free services was just immense. By 2017, after a failed merger attempt, Arcom collapsed under roughly 47,000 crore rupees of debt, completely forcing them to shut down their consumer operations. Meanwhile, the guys who managed to survive were sweating bullets. Vodafone Idea got slammed with staggering adjusted gross revenue, or AGR dues. Basically, these are historical fees owed to the government for using telecom airwaves. And this debt was reassessed at over 64,000 crore rupees. So you take the crushing pressure from Jio's pricing war, combine it with this unbelievable mountain of debt, and it pushed Vodafone Idea to the absolute brink. They ultimately needed a government bailout package in a 5-year payment moratorium just to keep the lights on. Which brings us to Section 4, a tight new oligopoly, the new market structure. Okay, so economists use this fascinating tool called the Herfindahl-Hirschman Index, or HHI for short, to measure market concentration. It's pretty simple. A low score means there's lots of healthy competition, but a high score means the market is dominated by just a few massive players, what we call an oligopoly. When we apply this HHI index, along with Gini coefficients, which measure inequality, to India's telecom sector, the data definitively shows us that the market has become highly concentrated. Real power is now resting in very, very few hands. Out of the ashes of those 12 active operators we talked about earlier, 3 massive private players emerged to basically control this entire billion-person market. By early 2022, Jio held the lead at 37.1%. Airtel was right on their heels at 34.8%, and Vodafone Idea sat at 22.1%. The state-owned BSNL was left holding just under 6%. This right here, this is textbook. It's a tight oligopoly. But wait, the power isn't just in the cell towers and network coverage anymore. These providers are fiercely utilizing what's called vertical integration. They aren't just selling you data, they're bundling services to effectively lock you into their own content ecosystems. Jio pairs its data with JioSaavn and JioTV, and even links directly to retail via JioMart. Airtel pushes Wynk and Xstream, Vodafone Idea has V-Movies and TV. The telco provider has basically evolved into the ultimate gatekeeper for your entire digital life.
And that leads us to our final point, Section 5, the cost of cheap data, the hidden price we pay.
Look, tech behemoths like Facebook and Google didn't just sit on the sidelines. They actually acquired significant stakes in Jio platforms, pouring in literal billions of dollars. And sure, while this absolutely drives innovation, it also connects massive, localized telecom networks directly to global digital platforms. This convergence raises some really complex new questions. We're talking about unmonitored privacy policies, massive incentives for data sharing across these giant ecosystems, and the immense soft power that these combined tech conglomerates now casually hold. In fact, when analyzing the Facebook Jio transaction, even the Competition Commission of India explicitly noted that the parties have structural incentives to engage in mutually beneficial data sharing. The major concern raised by researchers here is that these huge telecom and digital platforms are merging their capabilities in a space that historically has lacked robust, comprehensive personal data protection laws.
So, wrapping this all up, the Jio effect undeniably brought hundreds of millions of people online, it democratized digital access, and it fundamentally changed an entire industry in record time. Data is, without a doubt, cheaper than ever before. But when telecom and tech monopolies combine their massive ecosystems at this kind of unprecedented scale, we really have to stop and ask, who is really paying the price? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.